Tradition 6. An NA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. Our fifth tradition defines our primary purpose, and our sixth tradition tells us some of the things we must do to preserve and protect this spiritual aim. This tradition tells us that we ought never endorse, finance or lend the NA name to any outside enterprise. And then we are warned exactly what can happen if we ignore this advice. This tradition is the basis for our policy of non-affiliation and is extremely important to the continuation and growth of NA. Unfortunately, this tradition has also been a point of controversy within our fellowship. Let's take a closer look at what this tradition really says. First thing, a group ought never to endorse. To endorse is to sanction, approve, or recommend. Endorsements can either be direct or implied. We see direct endorsements every day in TV commercials. Direct endorsements can also be in writing and often appear in proposals and promotional sales material. A direct endorsement is often used to try and persuade someone to do something. An implied endorsement is one that is not stated. Although we don't usually recognize it as such, implied endorsements occur in our stories. We say, the big kids used it, and if they used it, it had to be good. The next thing we ought never do is finance. This is more obvious. To finance means to supply funds or to help support financially. The third thing warned against is lending the NA name. This means letting someone use the name, Narcotics Anonymous, for something that is not Narcotics Anonymous. It also means letting an outsider mention or utilize our name for their own purposes. Several times other programs have tried to use Narcotics Anonymous as part of their services offered to help justify a funding proposal. Had we allowed this, we would have been letting them use our name. These are the ought never in the sixth tradition. This tradition also tells us who. A related facility is any other facility or place that involves NA members. It might be a halfway house, a detox center, a counseling center, a clubhouse, or any one of a number of such places. Oftentimes, people are easily confused by what is NA and what are the related facilities. Recovery houses which have been started or staffed by NA members have to take special care that the differentiation is clear. Perhaps the most confusion exists when it involves a clubhouse situation. Newcomers and even older members often identify the clubhouse with NA and NA with the clubhouse. We should make a special effort to let these people know that there is a difference. The second, who outside enterprises. An outside enterprise is any agency, any business venture, any religion, any society, any organization, any unrelated activity, or any fellowship. Most of these are pretty straightforward, except for other fellowships. Most of us would not confuse NA with something like a specific religious fellowship, but when it comes to other 12-step fellowships, we sometimes have problems. Let's face it, Narcotics Anonymous is not Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Emotional Health Anonymous, Smokers Anonymous, Parents Anonymous, or any other Anonymous. Narcotics Anonymous is a separate and distinct fellowship in its own right. Our problem is addiction. The other 12-step fellowships specialize in other problems, and our relationship with them is one of cooperation, not affiliation. The use of the literature of another fellowship in our meetings constitutes an implied endorsement of an outside enterprise. The sixth tradition goes on to warn us what may happen if we do what we ought never do, lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. If you say this quickly, it almost sounds like money, power and sex, our old enemies. If you say it real quickly, it might sound like people, places and things, our old resentments and fantasies. Even if you don't say it quickly, they have much in common. They often become obsessions and shut us off from our spiritual aim. They are the sort of things we get involved with and run with until we are consumed. For the individual, this type of abuse can be devastating, but for the group, even the slightest touch can be disastrous. When we as a group waver from our primary purpose, addicts die who might have found recovery. The sixth tradition has been one of those just sort of read and let it go at that. It's hard to understand. But when we really take a look, when we really try to understand, its simplicity amazes us. We can see the danger of endorsement, financial support, and letting others use our name. We can see how easily things can lead to abuse of money, property, and prestige, and we can foresee the results of this abuse and the heartache it can bring.